कृपा सिंधु नर रूप हरि वंदौ गुरु पद कंजा कृपा सिंधु नर रूप हरि महामोह तम पुंज जासु बचन रवि करनि कर
वंदौ गुरुपद कृपा सिंधु नर रूप हरि महामोहतम पुंज जासु बचन रवि करनि कर.
As Dr. Mashelkar has said, Shrma is a phenomena, but he always says that is Ramakripa. One of his late teachers, Professor B.D. Tilak, said that he is the best chemist among the engineers and is the best engineer among the chemists.
Today I am going to tell you something about Professor Shrma. He was, as you know, my predecessor, director, distinguished teacher, as well as an outstanding academician.
I understood from my grandfather when he was alive that our real family surname was Vyas amongst Brahmins. But my father's formal surname was always the generic Shrma. I was born in our house, and Jodhpur is a very nice place. It was part of Marwar. And within Marwar, the most prominent place is Jodhpur. Jodhpur Maharaja was always considered as a very important Maharaja. Jodhpur Fort, Jodhpur Umaid Bhavan Palace are tourist attraction. Jodhpur Fort can beat many forts of the world. There was a school of Maheshwaris where I studied up to 7th standard. I was surprised that I was asked to move to the next class, which happened to be in the upper floor. Promoted from 2nd to 3rd. And after passing 7th from this, I moved on to Sardar High School. Jodhpur had an engineering college called MBM Engineering College. The only engineering course they offered was civil engineering. And I was somehow dead against doing civil engineering, but it didn't suit my temperament. But my leaning was more in chemistry and mathematics, and the closest to that was chemical engineering. So I got one information that it is there in BHU. But I happened to hit upon someone telling me that in Bombay also it is there. And in Bombay people only knew VJTI. So I sent a postcard. I still remember I sent a postcard to Principal VJTI that I am interested in taking admission. And so good were VJTI people, seeing chemical engineering, they passed on to UDCT. And from UDCT I got a reply saying that yes, we have chemical engineering and that there are seats for Rajasthan, Rajputana as it was called, and that you have to pay so much money by money order and you will get the form. So I sent the money order, I got the form, and these admissions were declared by end of May. When in North India, and I had obtained Banaras form also. And I got a telegram, seat offered to you with hostel accommodation, come by, I think they said come before 20th of June. So that's it. That fixed me and I sort of came here. From Bombay Central I went in a Victoria. This school friend of mine whose family was in the business of cloth in Mulji Jetha market, they had a house in Kalbadevi. So it was on 3rd floor. And when I reached 3rd floor, the train comes in the morning. So I wanted to take bath. Being used to taking bath with only a bucket and all, because of water problem, most people didn't have showers. They all took bath from a bucket. So I saw shower, and 3rd floor, I think it must be something like 9 o'clock in the morning. I can never forget. And the force with which water was coming from the shower really floored me. And I took leisurely bath for a few minutes because it was so good.
During the hostel days, there used to be a committee of managing the hostel. So after there was an election. So I became a member of the managing committee of hostel. We call it a union committee. And MMS was also a part of that committee, but he was not, he was rather looking after the distribution of milk.
Yes, I participated in many activities of hostel, the management of mess, sports. There will be small account of students, auditor, these sort of good. Part of our lessons in those days were in VGTI, because some branches of engineering teaching in UDCT had not started. 3rd year and 4th year was 100% in UDCT. 1st year and 2nd year part was in VGTI. But the labs were so good in UDCT. Chemistry lab was so good that we were very proud. And all teachers had PhDs and all. So the quality of teaching was a different class. The library was extraordinary. So these were all things which impressed one most. In those days, most teachers came in a tie and a jacket. Very open atmosphere, very supportive atmosphere. If you went to the office to pay fees, or if there was some, they were all extremely helpful. The office staff was very helpful, lab staff was very helpful. There was a general atmosphere of goodness. I did not appear for any interview when I was in the final year. Job position was extraordinarily good. Most of my classmates had 2-3 job offers, and I would have therefore also had, I think, a reasonably good record to, but I didn't appear for a single interview because I was steadfast in my interest of doing post-graduation. I also won within national competition the CSR scholarship also. Ministry scholarship was also available because very few people wanted to. In my class, I was the only one wanting to do post-graduation. So there was no problem of scholarship. Professor N.R. Kamath was the chemical engineer from the first batch of UDCT in 1936. And he had an awful reputation as a scholar. And he was professor of polymer technology. So I knocked at his door and he says, who are you? I said, I'm so and so. I want to do research. He said, sit down. What do you want to work in? So I told him what I want to work in. Now, some part which I wanted to do, he wasn't too fond of that, almost allergic. He says, why? So I ran into a big argument with him. Why I think that subject is good and why I should be working in thermodynamics and what ideas I have and how I'll pursue them. I also said how I will approach them. But so great was my involvement with him in discussions of various kinds other than my research. Something on my research, but predominantly outside research, other research students and all. So I finished my work quite fast. Then after my graduation, there was no accommodation in UDCT hostel. Scholarship was limited. I was lucky to get admission in Ramakrishna Mission hostel in Khar, which they no longer operate now. But that's the time when my devotion to Lord Ramakrishna became more and more intense, and throughout my life I have been a devotee and I have got tremendous strength, inspiration. First thing I did, even when I landed in London, was to go to Ramakrishna Mission Mutt in northern part of London. Then I became a lecturer on a temporary appointment on 4th of December 1959. Then, since I wanted to pursue teaching and research, and there was no one to guide for PhD, I then made up my mind that I'll go abroad. So I worked up to September 61 as a temporary lecturer. I was very fortunate that I first got a very good fellowship from Johns Hopkins University, Baltimore in USA, with even my airfare paid. But while this I had even accepted, a golden opportunity came through the real, out of the blue, what you will call a divine help through G.M. Nabar, the then director, and Dr. G.P. Kane, the first professor of chemical engineering university. I will ever remain grateful to him. Always willing to help people, never ask anything for himself. He left in 54 and I was the next professor appointed after 10 years. He recommended me to have a scholarship in Cambridge, and that changed my fortune. So I wrote to this professor in Johns Hopkins saying that I have got such and such offer. There also my fare is paid for. I am morally bound to come to you. But if you relieve me of my moral commitment, I will be very grateful. He relieved me and congratulated me, and he knew the professor with whom I was going to. He says, you got a golden opportunity and I wish you all the best. You please don't have any feeling that you had committed something and you are not able to honor. So in a very moral way, I went to Cambridge. My Cambridge days are very truly memorable. I worked in a thoroughly enjoyable way for long hours. All close to 3 years I was there, never ever slept in afternoon, even on a holiday. Worked all days and was always fresh. Typically I would work from 8:30 in the morning till 9:45 with the lunch break and this supper break. Then I would go to graduate club, read magazines, typically retire close to midnight. Sunday morning was free. I used to just take care of loose ends here and there, leisurely get ready. And after lunch I would set out to the university chemical laboratory library, because Sundays I had reserved for my reading interest in chemical sciences. That I would do up to 6:30 or so. And during summer time, it will be bright, sunny day all the way up to 8:30, 9 o'clock. Then I would go for long walks, because walking next to river there was one of the most pleasurable things. Backs of the colleges next to river.
His friend and colleague in the university, Tom Kin, who later on joined DuPont, and he used to say that the students used to always go to Professor Shrma for getting any reference to the latest literature, and Professor Shrma had this uncanny habit of reading practically everything, so he was a walking encyclopedia. And they were so used to going to Professor Shrma that when Professor Shrma left, actually they did not know where the library was.
Cambridge is a system that first year you are never registered for PhD. You are only registered as a research student. So everybody is petrified, And in my case, in May, June itself, I got okay to go and do a vacation project. Professor P.V. Dankworth, Peter Victor Dankworth, he was the greatest supporter of mine for getting professorship. And I had done such nice work, if I might use that word, that when I approached him in May, June 62, I joined in October 61, that I would like to get a feel for research in industry, and I wonder whether I could spend 2 months in an industrial R&D. He says, very good idea. In no time he fixed me in ICI. I mean, he had such a standing. I had memorable 2 months, 8 weeks to be precise, in ICI Research Center in Bellingham. Professor Dankworth referred my researches to a very big guy in Shell. He was extraordinarily well collected. If I remember, he wrote to Rothschild, who was on the board of Shell. He said, I got a student who has got an idea which might be worth implementing in industry. So they said, look, it is too valuable, so we will help you in taking a preliminary patent. So that preliminary patent was taken in my name. Dankworth said, I have not contributed to this idea, so it will be in your name. and they bore the expenses of taking the preliminary patent, means Shell. Then they wanted to buy out my patent, pay me money, and I assigned the rights of my patent to Shell, which I did. In fact, this happened less than a fortnight before I left for India, and I got the check 2 or 3 days before I left, so I came back as a bit of a rich man, you know. That gave me an insight into what goes on in industrial research. Although I was interested in academic career, from beginning I was very keen on having this close liaison with industry, and that is the brand of UDCT. I wanted to serve my institution. I had moral obligation, because this is the commitment G.P. Kane and G.M. Nabar took from me, that you give us a moral commitment that after PhD you come and serve the institution for 5 years. We don't want to bind you for lifetime. It's moral commitment. Moral commitments are more than legal commitments. I still remember after 5 years G.P. Kane telling me, Shrma, you are free to go anywhere, but I know you won't go.
And he taught us, if I remember correctly, mass transfer, thermodynamics and general chemical technology, 3 subjects. And he used to practically come with his hands in his pocket, so as to say. He hardly carried any books or lecture notes and so on and so forth. And they were the most fascinating lectures that I've ever heard.
He used to teach us mass transfer, and he used to come to the class with a big thick file which he never opened. And the most excited part is particularly when he used to talk about the mass transfer coefficient or the second order rate constant. He used to tell us the figures as if he just got those results in the laboratory.
He always had information in the form of a big file, and whenever anything new was published, he accumulated all that information and it was there. But it was more accumulated in his memory than in the file. So he never referred his file while giving the lectures.
One fine Monday, one of my seniors came with a small cheat in his hand. And he told me that, Smita, you have started getting cheats. 50 cheats is your master's. And then I came to know that he had a habit of working on weekends or whenever he was traveling and writing down small notes, cheats, to each student regarding his work.
Oh well, he was full of ideas. All the time he would be thinking in terms of what new experiments can be done. So each new idea he would write on a little chit which he will pass on to his PhD students. And what used to happen was that the chits used to come faster than we could complete the experiments or verify the idea that he had put on the chits. So the chits used to accumulate. So we had a little bit of joke about that chit fund, so as to say.
In chemical engineering, the equilibria, that is thermodynamics, and rate processes, that is kinetics and transport phenomena, these are important subjects. And basic concepts are in the range of 40 to 50. And if these concepts are clarified, then understanding chemical engineering becomes easy. Say for instance the transition from laminar flow to turbulent flow and re-laminarization from turbulent flow is one concept. So he designed one experiment which used to happen in a period of say 3 to 5 minutes, and students used to see for themselves how this transition occurs, both the transitions occurs, and the understanding was fairly quick. And then the lectures in the class as well as the memory of those understood concepts was for a much longer period.
Even when I was a PhD scholar working with Professor Shrma, I think the total sum of funds that we had available were something like 10,000 rupees a year. Now what do you do in 10,000 rupees a year? Now when you have zero budgets, you have to have great ideas. So all our research was idea based. It was not high budget based at all.
There was no budget. I think we just did research with no budget, by getting chemicals gifted, by getting this thing. Some of our very outstanding research came out in those days. Because when you have to think hard, it is a different game. When you have a lot of luxurious facilities, you depend more on facilities rather than on your brain.
So naturally he had to look out for equipment and all that, chemicals, equipment, all that from various well-wishers, you know. And a lot of his friends who knew what marvelous work he was doing or how committed he was, I mean, he would, if he came to the factory and saw something lying sort of idle, he would just say, look here, if this is not being used by you, can you give it to me? My boys will be able to use it, sort of thing, and take it. There have been instances where we would get a phone call that, please, on your way back, can you please drop a jar of this chemical or that chemical? One of my boys needs it badly for his research work. So this is how his commitment was so great that he would go to any length to help out his students.
I handed over my thesis to him on Saturday afternoon, and I was mentally relaxed, thinking that now at least for next 2, 3, 4 days I can just be little easy. To my greatest surprise, Monday 10:30 when I came to college, my entire manuscript of master's thesis was thoroughly checked, corrected, including grammatic errors, punctuation, and again the ball was in my court.
When I began my journey with him as a PhD student in 1966, our first paper was Shrma and Mashelkar. The second paper was Mashelkar and Shrma. And the third paper was Mashelkar alone. And as a matter of fact, I still remember that paper entitled Bubble Columns, which I wrote in British Chemical Engineering, which became quite famous. And although Professor Shrma had extensively commented on that paper, and in my judgment he had contributed, he refused to put his name. And he was very young at that time. You know, when you have 500 papers, you are showing generosity that I would not put my name. It's obvious. But when you are young, he was barely 28 when he joined UDCT, you know. So I'm talking about within 3 years of that, he hardly had 20 odd papers. But to be able to say that no, my student will write an independent paper, I think it requires courage and ethical conviction, which he had. I've not seen many, let us say, professors or scholars in the world who in their biodata have a separate section which actually says papers written independently by my students when they were doing PhD with me.
My publications with him, the number is the highest, but the characteristic features are two. One is the utility of these publications is known in terms of citations, and the number of citations of our publications is perhaps the highest in the country as far as the engineering and technology branch is concerned.
He has a remarkable insight into the techno-economic aspects of any project for that matter. He did not mince any words in saying that, look here, this is not a viable, economically viable proposition, and it should not be pursued.
I realized that if PhDs didn't go to industry, it will not be a flourishing enterprise. By merely creating them as teachers and going to research lab of CSIR was not, they will go, but that is only should be part of the story. They must go to the natural habitat, that is industry. And I convinced them, very industry people came back today, UDCT cannot supply enough number of PhDs. Although they are producing per capita the highest number of PhDs in the country.
So at the time we were doing our research, which was really mid-60s, I'm talking about 40 years ago, there was hardly any guidance with regard to how to design these bubble columns, because you start with a small tube which may be 1 inch or 2 inch diameter, and you have to scale these up to several meters, so as to say. And how do you do that? Tubes which are not only a couple of meters in diameter, but 20 or 30 or 40 meters in height. And we were the first ones to provide those criteria for design of such bubble columns.
पहले इनकी मम्मी और बड़े ब्रदर आए थे, वो आके मिल के गए कि हमारी तरफ से हाँ है, अभी लड़का आएगा तो वो जो कहेगा वैसा करेंगे, और इन्होंने आके हाँ कर दिया, तो बस वही बात तय हो गई। और ऐसा कोई कुछ स्पेशल कुछ नहीं हुआ.
I came back in India in August 64. I got married in February 66.
दहेज के लिए इन्होंने मना कर दिया था. हमारी मदर थी, उन्होंने मदर इन लॉ ने ये कह दिया था कि लड़का कुछ नहीं मिलेगा और कुछ नहीं चाहिए हम लोगों को. और इस बात पे ये लोग बहुत वो भी रहे कि नहीं लेना है. जो भी सगाई भी करी तो सब रुपया नारियल से, उससे ज्यादा कुछ ही नहीं है.
Professor Shrma's knowledge of chemistry was extraordinarily deep to an extent where I remember Professor Venkatraman, who was the director of this National Chemical Laboratory, once telling me that there is a fairly advanced level chemistry discussion that was going on in his room when Professor Shrma entered. And Professor Shrma, although he was a chemical engineer, was able to contribute to that discussion and suggest something new. So he is a very unique chemical engineer who is extraordinary, not only as a chemical engineer, but fantastic as a chemist.
People have been talking in terms of green chemistry in the last 15 years or so. He has been talking about it since 70s, early 70s I would say. He's always been talking of it. In my experience, I remember he's always been talking of green chemistry only. He may not call it green chemistry, but he used to call it clean chemistry, because this is what you are doing. He would say, what you are doing is very polluting, very environmentally very damaging. He was fully aware of these things. Well before his time, well before the times the rest of society started accepting it.
When this directorship letter came, I wrote, I invite your attention to this letter, which remained unattended. I see no merit in becoming director on the basis of seniority. I am not inclined to accept. I put it in writing. Then there was a lot of moral pressure put on me by Dr. Tilak, so many past students, faculty members. Then I realized that I may become double sufferer, somebody else who is made director. So I had already turned down very big positions in Government of India and other institutions. But when it comes to your own institutions, you have to make compromises. But once I took it up, then I did whatever best I could do.
When he became director, he quickly realized 3-4 points. One is, being in the university system, financially all the departments were in want of funds. So the first thing he did was, he got recognition for all the departments under the Special Assistance Program of the UGC. Also, he collected large number of donations for the upgradation and maintenance of equipment and facilities in those departments. In addition to this, the institution is globally recognized in terms of academic parameters, and these are the number of publications, quality publications, international publications, as well as the number of citations and the number of PhDs and the number of masters. So he focused on these global academic parameters so much that during his tenure he almost doubled these numbers, and the number of PhDs became approximately 10% of that the country was producing or has been producing. That importance he gave to the academic parameters.
Growth of PhD as a culture spread throughout the department, not isolated with 3-4 individuals, was predominantly my initiative. And I worked hard for it. From 18-19 PhDs a year to I brought it to 42 to 44. And today it is a matter of great pleasure that now it is in 50s. So it was sustainable and flourishing. That is the proof of planning. It is across. It is across all disciplines, although a dominant role is played by chemical engineering in view of the large number of students they have. But the PhD culture is throughout UDCT.
Since he spent his entire life in the university system, he knew the limitations of the university. Normally, universities administer large number of colleges, large number of students, and large number of examinations. And therefore, the attention for excellence and attention for quality research is not given priority. It is always at a back seat. and the autonomy improves the administration, the academics, the financial aspects. The quality increases by a big factor. So knowing this, he made an effort for more than 10 years. The partial autonomy was obtained in 1985, where some powers had come to UDCT then, but in 1994, under the university sector, UDCT was made autonomous, and it was the first department in the country which was made autonomous.
In the history of Bombay University, they never allowed semesterized system with a repeat exam within a month of declaration of result. UDCT is the only organization which has this provision. On behalf of Bombay University, we will conduct all the exams on our own and repeat exam within a month. So that provision they cannot give to a private college. We fought on that basis and succeeded in warding off any affiliation of chemical engineering to any private college. They had to have a different configuration, different syllabus. If we had not done that, UDCT's shine on chemical engineering would have been lost.
Institutions cannot be built, or excellence cannot be built only on the basis of government support. The support is required for fellowships, for getting quality faculty, for generating excellent ambience, and therefore right from 1975 he started collecting donations.
I changed the fundamentals of consulting. Today the person who has changed fundamentals further is J.B. Joshi. But it was I who ushered in these high fees, convinced the university that they should not grumble. I said, you get 1/3 cut, and of the 2/3, in those days half used to go in taxes, even today 1/3. So the fellow gets only 1/3. So Bombay University saw argument. Literally I ushered in limitless consulting fees.
He was my supervisor for home project, and for some difficulty I went to him and I had my difficulty on a piece of paper which I tried to show him. He looked at me and not looked at the paper, and he quickly realized that I was facing problem of less of proteins. And you will not believe that at that time I did not have sufficient means for having those proteins. So quickly he took some money from his pocket, gave me, and supported me for proteins for several months. Of course I came out of the problem, and I never faced the problem of proteins later on. Like me, he helped several students and large number of non-teaching staff. Later on he thought to institutionalize this entire activity, and he collected good number of donations for needy students as well as for the welfare of non-teaching staff.
I took interest with very active participation, major participation of G.D. Yadav, and we brought lot of plants. He, having come from farmers family, had hands-on experience. I had a lot of friends who were botanists, so I will get ideas. I would bring plants from Institute of Science Bangalore, from nurseries in Bangalore. I even brought plants from Dehradun, from Jammu. Silver oak which you see in the front came from Jammu. I even brought plants from Arunachal Pradesh. Whatever could be acclimatized, so our gardens became a kind of herbarium. We raised all the money for garden on the basis of donations, and I didn't take any one single large donation. I wanted large number of people to contribute 5,000 each.
It's a day whose load I am unable to bear. I have successfully avoided breaking down. How I achieved that, I do not know. I should have broken down in the first instance because I am unable to handle all this. To me, it has been an exceptionally satisfying experience. You are told, and I have words for it, I had made a living doing exactly what I wanted to do, and I am more than willing to do it all over again. To conclude, I wish to say that institutions are much larger than any individual. UTCT has made me, but I have made only very feeble contributions to this great institution. And the cultural heritage it has, which nobody can steal, the traditions that we have created for 63 years are so weighty that even a rogue elephant cannot trample it. I am so convinced that UTCT will enter 21st century with full steam. Ladies and gentlemen, please accept my most sincere gratitude. Namaskar.
In chemical process industry, large number of equipment are used for separations as well as reactions. And the design procedures for these equipment were closer to an art than science. And this was basically because of the complexity of fluid mechanics. After realizing this, in his research programs, he very carefully and systematically analyzed the fluid mechanics and the reaction and separation steps and suggested a stepwise procedure, and these resulting economical designs, they have much less capital cost as well as operating cost.
The first landmark honor I got was for the year 71 Bhatnagar Prize, and that I got from Indira Gandhi's hands. Then Indian National Science Academy Fellowship in 1976, and I was then the second engineer to be president of Indian National Science Academy in 89-90. For an academic, I told you there are many people in England and also in India who crave that the greatest ambition in life is to become fellow of Royal Society. Yeah, first I phoned my wife because I was in the lab when the telegram came. It came at office, so I phoned her, then I phoned GP Khan, and there was another person who was my great well-wisher, Dr. Edalji. But I was the first engineer. Now there are 3 engineers today. The second one, the third one is Mashelkar, my own student. So it's a very unique achievement. That not only I became fellow of Royal Society, my own former doctoral student also became fellow of Royal Society.
He would look at any balance sheet of any company, chemical company, and he will pinpoint exactly what is going wrong where whether there's something hanky-panky going on or whether there's some big mistake was going on. He could immediately pinpoint what was wrong with that.
I remember, and we didn't listen to him, and I think now it's turning out to be true. These were the days of low oil prices, but he always felt that this is not going to last too long, and he was arguing for deep coal gasification project. We didn't sort of take, and I'm sure he's also warning, I think even now, on neglect of fertilizer industry. We again believe that that's going to be very important for India. So he looks much longer term, much beyond. His ability to think long-term perspective is absolutely remarkable. He has a deep understanding of industrial economics.
You are perhaps aware that Mukesh Ambani publicly admires that the success of Reliance is on the basis of suggestions of Professor Shrma.
Professor Shrma has given me, and all that he had with my father was really very instrumental in making Reliance a global leader in the chemical industry, and I want to thank Professor Shrma and your institution.
Since he spent his entire life in the university, he knows what is required for excellence, and therefore he introduced novel features while he was on the national committees. Let it be Special Assistance Program of UGC or the FIST program of DST or large number of assistance programs of Department of Science and Technology as well as CSIR, and he made several valuable contributions when he was advisor to the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Recently, when he is now 70 years, still he is struggling for the welfare of the university system.
He has been so intimately connected with CSI's planning, thinking, dreaming. It's incredible. Even today, our what is called as a New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative, where we are really looking at risky big ventures, like say concept of biorefinery and so on. It is he whose thoughts have gone behind it. You know, I think his contributions are so multifaceted to CSIR that a separate book can be written just entitled Professor Shrma's contributions to CSIR.
He had no inclination either to take a job or even to join any company even at the board at that time, right? And he has refused, and he told me many times, even some of my own company where I was serving in Chika Limited, for example, the director conveyed to me many times that if Sharmaji is available, they would be very happy to be associate him in one of their chemical company, one of their sister company. Sharma made it very clear. He said, look JR, my main pursuit is research, my main pursuit is teaching, and I would not like to leave that at all. Right. Anything else will come second. The first preference is my teaching.
क्योंकि ये अपने विचारों में एकदम इनको मालूम था कि इन्हें क्या चाहिए, और जैसे और कुछ बातें इनको कहीं भी कोई अट्रैक्ट नहीं कर पाई कि कोई ज़्यादा सैलरी हो, तो इतनी हम लोगों की डिमांड्स भी लाइफ में इतनी नहीं थी कि हम कोई पैसे के पीछे जाते, और मुझे तो आनंद उसमें मिलता था जैसे ये खुश है ठीक है.
I never had one moment to say that the job I took up and where I stayed on was not a right decision.
We used to have in UDCT this best student competition, and I was one of the candidates, and where the best student is not just getting for best marks, you are getting best marks, but also for your other attributes. So one of the things that he tested me on was, he said, what are you fond of? And then I said, independence and all. And I still remember he asked me some questions. I think there were some songs by Madan Mohan and so on, but I still remember my making big mistakes and he's correcting me on those.
He is a great admirer of Hindi songs, and he not only sings well, but who wrote this song, who gave the music sort of it, right? Even in the family, sometimes when we used to play Antakshi, when we go out for picnic, right? And finally some roadblock comes and he will come out with a song. धीरे धीरे आ रे काले बादल आ, मेरा बुलबुल सो रहा है, शोरगुल न मचा.
We have a lot of great memories by walking all around wherever we got a chance and chat about different things in life. So that is a memory that I would very fondly keep with me, his passion for walking, and I was fortunate that I got to tag along with him for all these walks and share our experiences and thoughts with him.
Even though Mom took care of our studies as well as the day-to-day, everyday life, he was always a pillar of strength and encouragement. And I was like pleasantly surprised to see him being really happy when I finished with a distinction in Bachelor of Pharmacy, because he never really was there asking us what our grades were or how we did in a particular test, as well as his joy when we got different awards in grad school abroad.
बच्चे भी आध्यात्मिक हैं, और एक घर का एटमॉस्फेयर कहिए या जन्म से कहिए पता नहीं, परंतु ईश्वर को मानते हैं, एक उसकी है जो भी जिस तरह से भी माना जाए.
She is the pillar of strength because of which my father was able to go out and achieve all these things in life. Of course, while he was busy in his career, he would end up working very late hours or and traveling quite a bit. I remember growing up that he would go on day return trips to Delhi, fly out at 6 in the morning and come back at 10 in the night. And next morning at 8 a.m. he's back in his office working. So that was obviously tough on my mom to be able to raise two of us so well and devote so much of her life and her time selflessly to raise us and also run the family.
जीवन जो है हंसते खाते पीते निकल गया समय, पता ही नहीं लगा कि कैसे इतना समय निकल गया। मुझे तो लगता है कि अभी शादी होके आई थी, 2-4 साल हुए हो, ऐसे अभी भी फीलिंग होती है। पर समय का काउंट करो तब लगता है कि अरे 40 साल निकल गए, तो 40 साल तो बहुत होते हैं, कम नहीं होते। तो यही लगता है, पर मुझे लगता है कि अब हर उसमें मैं खुश रही, या मैं वातावरण घर का ऐसा रहा कि मुझे कभी कोई ऐसा अकड़ी नहीं बात।
I've had extraordinary support at home, so it was all positive. If there was something found wanting, it was from my side, that I didn't devote as much time as I should have if I see in retrospect.
खुशी का मूल मंत्र समर्पणी है।
Well, she has been an excellent wife, excellent mother, excellent daughter-in-law, has worked entirely for me and children, and hasn't done much for herself. If there is a fault, it is I am at fault, and I think to some extent my children are also at fault for not giving as much attention to her as we ought to. But she worked entirely for the family, didn't look for anything for herself. That's a great that's our greatness. बंदो गुरुपद पदम परागा सुरुचि सुवास सरस अनुरागा अमय मूरिमय चूर्ण चारु समन सकल भव रुज परिवारु.
Now you must have realized the outstanding contributions that Professor Shrma has made for Mother Institution and the academic life in general.